Good morning to all. And this class we are going to study about the life cycle assessment of packaging material. You all know very well that how the packaging materials are manufactured, what all the materials used for packaging them. And once the packaging material is ready, it goes for containment of food products. So once the food is contained in this, next step is it moves to the consumer point. So in the consumer, once the consumer uses them, and they will discard the packaging material. So this life cycle assessment is life cycle assessment means it is the life cycle of packaging material from the manufacturing process to the disposal. So what up to the disposal point. So what type of impact it is going to create on the packaging material and environmental impact we are going to study in this class. So first, we are going to study about the definition of life cycle assessment. And this life cycle assessment is nothing but what it is. A life cycle assessment for packaging is a complex method. So this method is used to evaluate the environmental impact of a packaging product through its entire life. So through its entire life, from the manufacturing, transportation, usage, and raw material extraction, and finally to the end of life disposal. So starting from manufacturing and until disposal, this it's a complex cycle. So this cycle, what happens during this cycle, we are going to study in the life cycle assessment. So this life cycle assessment is more than an environmental analysis, because we are going to manufacture, and then afterwards we are transporting them, use them, and then dispose them into the land. So what type of impact it is going to create on the environment, we are going to study. Okay, so it's a complete journey that evaluates the ecological footprints of products and services from the beginning to the end of the packaging material. So it's a journey of the packaging material from manufacturing to disposal. In short, you can call this as life cycle assessment. Okay, so next is, packaging has a life both before and during the packaging. That means during utilization period and after being utilized. So you know that though when a packaging material is made, we are making as we know very well that we are making different types of packaging materials to contain fruit juices, to contain vegetables, dried food substances, fresh produces, as well as also other durable products also. So for everything we need packaging material. So during the life, the package has a life before containing the food, and during the when you are keeping the food inside the packaging material, and after its consumption, we are going to throw them. Okay, throw them outside. So this begins with what first, how we are going to make the packaging material. So the beginning is like extracting resources from the earth. So what we are doing actually, when you are going for polymer material, we are utilizing the fossil fuels we are utilizing. If you want to go for a biodegradable packaging, we are utilizing them. We are utilizing the naturally available biomass we are using in this case. Okay, so for the extraction of the polymer material, or for the manufacture of the polymer material, we are extracting fossil fuels, or we are using trees for the manufacturing purpose, and then these materials are processed into a suitable form for manufacturing. So first one is the raw material stage. So in the raw material stage, we are going to extract the raw material, and then this raw material is processed into a suitable form for manufacturing. So following this, the material is manufactured into a correct format. Whatever may be the packaging material you need, that is converted into a correct format. The packaging is then what it is. Once it is manufactured, it is distributed to the person, and then food materials are filled into that, and with the product it is sold to the retail points. So all these things happens here in the case of packaging life cycle. The packaging is used by the consumers, and then afterwards, once it is used, and it is going to be disposed of, where it may end up in one of the several ways of its life destination, or it is Finally, where it goes normally when you throw a packaging material, this goes to the landfill, or sometimes it goes to the recycling plant. It goes to the recycling plant. So the different stages, what are the stages for this? First is raw material, acquisition of raw material, processing them and converting them into packaging material, then containment of food, usage of food, disposal of the packaging material. So all these different stages have environmental impact. So assessing how suitable an item of packaging is requires factoring in the impacts. So throughout across the life stages, we are going to study. So different stages are there, and across the different stages, how it is going to impact the environment, we are going to study. So the way they do it, the way of analyzing the packaging material throughout its life cycle is called as life cycle assessment of a particular packaging material. So this picture depicts starting from extraction of raw material and then disposal stage. So this pictorial representation describes about, first is the raw material. The raw material may be either maybe it is a fossil fuel, or it may be a plant-based material. Then it goes to the manufacturing site where it is being manufactured. It's then after containing the food, it's being transported. The package with food is being transported to the retailers or consumer point of view, where it is being sold out. Once it is sold, the consumer will utilize the food, and finally they'll dispose the food. Okay. So after disposal, it may go as a landfill, or it may be recycled into some other form. Okay. So this cycle only we are going to study. This is nothing but life cycle assessment of a packaging material. So life cycle assessment. So it calculates, the life cycle assessment calculate environmental impact of packaging material from material sourcing to what? Disposal. Okay. So this is nothing but cradle to grave approach. So cradle to grave is nothing but what? How it has been acquired, and finally how it is going to be disposed. So this approach is followed in assessing the life cycle of a particular packaging material. So why we have to assess the life cycle of a packaging material? What is the importance behind it? So life cycle assessment offers what? It is a clear and scientific method for companies. Why we are providing this to companies? Those who are manufacturing the packaging material, to monitor their environmental footprint, and also empowering consumers to make informed decisions. For example, I can say that if you're making a polymer packaging material out of a polymeric substances, what will happen? These polymer material will take a long time to degrade into the soil. On the other hand, when you are using some biodegradable packaging material, that takes only few years or less than a year to degrade into the soil. So the consumer should be in a position to understand what type of packaging material it is and how we have to dispose them. All this awareness should be given to the consumers. So the consumers should aware of type of packaging material and how to dispose them, and what it will do after disposal. Either it goes as a landfill, or it is going to or else it will go to the recyclable. So normally in the streets also you can see some of the boxes will be, they will keep some boxes and containers. In the container it will be written biodegradable and non-biodegradable. That is nothing but what? Based on so it is educating the consumers to throw biodegradable in one bin and the non-biodegradable in another bin, so that you will segregate the packaging material there itself, and afterwards the further processing will starts. So this life cycle assessment finds the most negative aspects and furnishing essential data to mitigate or offset this impacts. For example, what is the bad impact? Landfilling. So what happens when it is disposed into the land? When it is disposed into the land, automatically animal may graze them along with the grass, or plants, they may consume them, or it will affect the soil filtration rate. Water won't penetrate into the soil. All these ill effects may be created to the environment when it is not disposed properly. So this LCA creates an understanding of the ecological footprints associated with packaging material. And not only that, it enables us to identify the areas of improvement and implement sustainable practices of manufacturing, such as how we have to design the package, how we have to transport them. All these ideas or matters related to the packaging materials could be understood by when you are going for the life cycle assessment of the packaging materials. So before you're going for the life cycle assessment of any packaging material, you should know what are all the key elements of the life cycle assessment. So in LCA for packaging, there are multiple key elements that are often used. Here are some of them are called as greenhouse gas emissions. You know very well that greenhouse gases are the major threat to our environment. Ozone depletion and increasing the temperature of the global temperature increase leads to melting of ice, and water level will increase. All these things. Then second one is the fossil fuel use, then water use, mineral resources use, and freshwater exotoxicity. All these are all the key elements which are all taken into consideration when you want to assess the life cycle of a particular packaging material. From measuring fossil fuel consumption to quantifying the greenhouse gas emissions and accessing water consumption, each element provides a unique perspective on a product's environment impact. Okay, so greenhouse gas emission, it has different effect. Usage of fossil fuels and how we are going to process them. Finally, we want the olefins for the manufacture of the polymers. So how these olefins are, how we are getting these olefins, what type of process is being carried out, all are involved in this life cycle assessment of a packaging material. So in this, first we're going to see the product's life cycle stages. Now, for assessing a life cycle of a packaging material, we should know about the following things. One is product's life cycle stages. So the first one is, as I told you already, first we have to get the raw material, we have to manufacture, then we are going to use it, and finally end of life, transportation. All these are all the life cycle stages of any packaging material. So raw material acquisition, the extraction and transportation of raw material such as wood, paper, bagasse, if it is a biodegradable material, or else if it is a petroleum fossil fuel, we have to process them and we have to get olefins, okay, by chemical modification process. Then manufacturing, second process is a manufacturing process, the processing and transportation of raw material into intermediate and final products is involved in the manufacturing products, and it also includes the packaging of products and their transportation to the next stage. Okay, so manufacturing involves what? Converting the raw material into end user product. The next one is use phase, the use of the product by the end user. So after packing some food substances or any other material into this, it goes to the consumer point where it is being used by the consumer, including, so when the use of the product by the end user, it includes energy consumption and any maintenance are required that you have to consider. So for example, when you are packing a food like fresh produce like meat, fish, and then cheese or any other things, when you're packaging food materials, it needs some refrigerated support also. So their energy consumption also comes into play. The use phase of products does not create any additional emissions because we are going to consume it or we are going to use the product, that is not going to involve any additional emissions. And the footprint of the food or drink served in our packaging is out of scope and cannot be tracked. So we are not bothered about the food which is being contained in a packaging material. We are bothered about the packaging material only. Okay, so the use phase does not involve the product which is contained in the packaging, and it is mainly based on the packaging material only. End of life, the disposal of the product. Once the consumer utilize the product, they will just throw them outside, either through the recycling, either it goes to the recycling or it goes to the landfill, or sometimes incineration or any other means of waste management system. It enters into the waste management system. The end of life is entering into the waste management system. The next is transportation. Transportation can occur in different stage of life cycle. There are also several factors to be considered in the transportation, such as how much distance it is going to travel, how we are going to transport them, like truck, train, ship, or plane, and fuel type and vehicle efficiency. All this leads to some amount of losses in this case. These are also taken into account of the transportation things, because once the packaging material is manufactured, the factory may be at one point and another packing area may be at different points. So all these parameters which are mentioned here are involved in this case. Once product is being contained, that product has to be transported to the consumer. So again, transportation cost also included in this. So in short, it is given in the form of flowcharts like material manufacturing, producing material and material film from raw materials, then product manufacturing, molding the product, dyeing them, assembling the product. Product distribution and transportation, we are using land transportation, water transportation, or airways, anything you can use. Product use, cleaning the soap and water, how we are going to use them. And disposal, in the disposal, we can recycle them, or it goes as a landfilling, or finally we are going to incinerate them. All these are all involved in the life cycle assessment. And this has been shown by means of a simple pictorial representation. So here, raw material, we are transporting them in the manufacturing sites. Some toxic emission may take place, and that leads to greenhouse gases. Okay, and then for this purpose, we are using electricity and heat for the manufacturing process itself. Energy is involved in this case. Then again, we are transporting them to warehouse, and from the warehouse, we are using the packaging material. And after once in the warehouse, after that we are filling them into some food substances. Then it goes to the consumer where it is used, and end of life comes, we are disposing them into the land. So either we can recycle them, or we can send them to waste incineration project or landfills. Sometimes this once it is incinerated, the energy can be converted into electrical energy also times. Okay, so life cycle assessment stages is the next one. So far we studied about the life cycle assessment, what are the factors that involves, stages involved in the packaging material, all these things. Now assessment stages. So first one is, so we should know about what is the goal and scope of scope definition. What is the goal of life cycle assessment, we should know. And then life cycle inventory. So detailed inventory of all the inputs and outputs associated with the products should be assessed, and that inventory should be collected. Okay. The next one is life cycle impact assessment is the next one, and interpretation. All these things are involved in this case. So first one is goal and scope definition, the objective and boundary of the life cycle assessment, where you are going to start, where you are going to end. That you should know first. Okay, that should be defined properly. Then life cycle inventory is the second one, a detailed inventory of all the inputs. So what are all the inputs means raw material procurement, what are all the raw material you are going to acquire, and how you are going to manufacture, and how it's been transported. All this data should be collected next. Then life cycle impact assessment is nothing but what this phase assess the significance of various environmental aspects, such as air, water pollution, which is involved in this assessment stage. Then interpretation, the results of LC are analyzed and presented in a way that helps in decision makers draw conclusion and make framed decisions. So first we are doing what? First we have to define the scope, where we are going to start, where we are going to end. Then life cycle inventory is nothing but we have to collect all the data related to the inputs and also outputs, packaging material. Then life cycle impact assessment involves the phases of the significance, environmental impact. Okay, so land or water or air, what impact it's going to create. Then collectively we are going to interpret. Based on this, we can interpret whether it can be disposed or incinerated, or it can be recycled. So this is assessment framework. So goal and scope, it's a process, and inventory analysis, impact assessment, everything is everything we are going to use, and we are going to interpret them, and based on the interpretation, what you are going to give, what type of inventory analysis has to be carried out, what impact it is going to create on the land, and how we have to fix the goals. All these things should be known from this. And once this interpretation is done, direct applications like what? Either you can go for product development and improvement, strategic plan you can set up, what type of packaging, how many layer of packaging, and public policy making, marketing, and other things can be drawn after the interpretation. And simultaneously, you can give, based on the directions, you can suggest the interpretation, and finally it goes to the manufacturing or other process in this case. So impact assessment, goal definition, scope, and in this next one is, so that here it is given in the form of a pictorial representation. So how we are going to inventory analysis, what is inventory? Resources, how we are going to raw material acquisition, manufacturing, use, waste management are taken in the inventory analysis. Then impact assessment, once this is made, what impact assessment? Classification, characterization, valuation. So you're going to classify them into degradable, biodegradable, or it requires lesser time for degradation or quick degradation of packaging material. All this has to be done, evaluated. Then finally, improvement of assessment. If the packaging material, the material improvement, you can go with the material improvement. If it takes, polymer material takes long year to degrade into the soil, that can be improved by blending it with other natural polymers. So you can reduce the life cycle of this. Okay. And then product, what type of product you are going to use for it, whether you are going for a packaging film or bottles or any containers, that are not involved. And package thickness, what is the recyclability potential of this material? Everything should be taken into consideration in this case. So comprehensive analysis is the another one. So the LCA assesses the environmental impact of the product or service by considering all stages of life cycle from cradle to grave. So this is comprehensive. Together we are going to analyze everything, like raw material to end user or disposal. Environmental focus, the primary goal is to identify and quantify the environmental burdens associated with the different packaging material. You know very well, when you throw a paper, it will degrade soon. Instead, when you throw a paper whose thickness is less than 40 micron, it will take long year to degrade into the soil. So nowadays, for that only, nowadays what they are going for biodegradable packaging materials they are going for. So which doesn't give any harmful impact to the environment. Then data-driven approach. LCA relies on collecting and analyzing the data on resources, consumption, energy use, emission, what it is going to emit, greenhouse gases, and waste generation throughout the life cycle. And then next is comparison optimization. So LCA allows for comparison of different packaging options. We can compare different packaging option, means what? There are different packaging materials like polypropylene, polyethylene, and then you have other PC, polycarbonate, and then PLA is there, polycaprolactam and PCL is there. So different materials are available. So you can compare the different packaging options and identify the opportunities that will reduce the environmental impact of the material. Okay. So the important factors, next is important factors that impact the packaging of LCA. Packaging to product ratio. So we have to measure the ratio of packaging to the actual product is an important aspect of LCA. So we have to give what? So for example, you should not use, when you use a 100 ml bottle, you should not fill it with 20 ml. You have to use the full potential in this case, okay, like it is. So measuring the ratio of the packaging to the actual product is an important aspect of life cycle assessment. Having the right balance is essential for reducing the waste and also optimizing the resources. Then eco-friendliness material. The environmental impact of packaging materials can be avoided. So it is harmful when you throw the polythene packaging material into the atmosphere. So it plays a crucial role in this case. So we have to evaluate the eco-friendly materials involving the factors like biodegradability, recyclability, and overall sustainability of the chosen material. So we should take into consideration of ecological conditions or eco-friendly footprints into account. And considering this, we have to go for a polymer material or go for a packaging material. Okay, so easily degradable material we have to choose. That is the choice of the current trends. Then circular economy principle. What is circular economy? Efficiency of packaging design aligned with circular economy. What does that means? That means what? When you're using a raw material, that raw material should be in a position to recyclable. You can use them many times. Okay, so without creating any impact to the environment. That is the main aspects in this case. So it is once you are using it, for example, if a company makes a PET bottle, which is made up of PLA bottle, that PLA bottle can be recycled again and again, and it goes in a closed loop cycle. So this concept is called as what? Circular economy principle. So once you are recycling, you can use them into some other form of packaging material, and after then you will make another packaging from this. That packaging material can be converted to some other form, like closed loop system is followed in this case. That will that comes under the circular economy principle. Then sustainable practices. Incorporating sustainable practices in packaging design is critical one. So this includes innovative solutions to the packaging material, usage of recycled material, and we have to adopt some eco-friendly technologies in the manufacturing process instead of chemical processing of manufacture of packaging materials. So all this involved in this case, right? So next is about why this LCA is important for packaging. One is sustainability, informed decision making, reducing environmental footprints, identifying the trading, and innovation improvement are some things which comes under this category. So sustainability, sustainability LCA helps in identifying the sustainable environmental material. So it has to reduce the land environmental impact. So once you know the life cycle assessment of a polymer material, you will choose a material which is a sustainable one. So sustainable one means we can further use them repeatedly, and you can use the packaging material for further converting them one package into the another packaging material like this. Okay, so enabling the development of more sustainable packaging solution is the main thing in this case. Then informed decision making. LCA provides data-driven insights to help the manufacturer and consumers informed about a decision of disposing them, and then reducing environmental footprint. By understanding the environmental impact of packaging, companies can take steps to reduce the environmental footprint and promote sustainability. So as a consumer, they can give some symbol over the packaging material. Yes, cycle, I mean a triangular symbol will be there. They'll give number over this 3, 4, 5, 6 like this. So whether it is recyclable or non-recyclable, everything will be given in the material itself. Okay, so when you're buying a water bottle, and what instruction is given in the water bottle? Crush and then dispose is the option. And some other in the water bottle, it may be given that recyclable, or like they may give these options into the packaging materials. So that is based on this, the consumer will decide what to do with the packaging material, whether throw it, or it can be put into recyclable condition, or we can incinerate them. Any decision consumer may go for it. Then identifying trade-offs. LCA can help identifying potential trade-off between different environmental impacts such as energy consumption versus waste generation. So one is when you're throwing them outside, we are creating lots of waste. How we are going to utilize them? Waste energy consumption. So how we are going to reduce the energy consumption by converting them into another material, and also what happens when waste is generated into the environment. The innovation improvement, like LCA can drive innovation in improvement in packaging design, materials, process, leading to more sustainable solution. So innovation and improvement. Nowadays, what we are going for, we are all avoiding plastic packaging material. Instead, we are going for biodegradable and edible packaging material. That is the innovation and improvement in the packaging thing. So once you know the life cycle assessment only, you can go for you can think about the new innovations in the innovative strategies, innovative methods for developing a packaging material, and what kind of improvement can be done with the existing one. Everything can be known only when you go study the life cycle assessment of a packaging material. Okay. So this picture deals about the cradle to grave approach, and in between the cradle, so acquisition of raw material, manufacturing process, then transportation is the gate. From there only it goes to the consumer, and product is used by the consumer. Once it is used, where it goes to the end of life, grave. So that point only we can either recycle them, incinerate them, or we can throw it as a landfill, everything. Okay, waste hierarchy. So this is waste hierarchy. It talks about what? So it is important that the packaging waste is managed carefully or not. So one framework to help us understand how to manage the packaging waste is the waste hierarchy. So the European Union's approach to waste management is based on the inverted pyramid, which ranks the priority of waste management option first. Okay, so here with the prevention at the top being the most preferred and the disposal at the bottom is the least one we are considering in this case. The higher up the hierarchy, the more sustainable and the practices are. So prevention is the most one, and then we have to avoid. That means we have to prevent packaging material to be disposed into this. That is the one. So first you have to prevent the waste, then you have to go for preparing for reuse. How? Okay, once it is done, waste is put it into that, we have to, how we are going to reuse them is the next one. So reuse and then recycling and other recovery systems we have to identify, then only finally we have to go for disposal. Okay, so this approach we have to follow in order to avoid the waste. The circular economy I told you already. So an example for the circular packaging is a reuse model, where packaging can be used multiple times by being collected, washed, reused. Clearly such a complex change is not straightforward to implement, but the circular economy concepts invites a new way of thinking, which provides a thinking about sustainability of the packaging material, sustainable packaging material, which can be reused many times and instead of disposing them into soil. Okay, so this is a picture which shows about the circular economy principle. Thank you. With this, we'll complete the class.